We need to take money out of politics and restore integrity to the election process. But what's the best way to do that? Joining me now is Austin Peterson, Director of Production of FreedomWorks and editor of the LibertarianRepublic.com. Hey, Austin.
Hey, Tom.
Bottom line, our democracy has been hijacked by billionaires and transnationals. This is a dead serious issue. We are looking at something like a monarchy rather than a democracy. Not good.
Right. So we're talking about the specific issue is this petition that was brought up to the White House was that we would have, corporate sponsors would be labeled on the congressman's outfit when they're wearing. And when you sent me this topic earlier today, I was like, no, this is ridiculous. This is stupid. But then you know what? I thought about it today, and I changed my mind, Tom. You know what? I absolutely support it, but only on one circumstance. If we're going to dress these people up and make them look like NASCAR drivers, these congressmen, we got to be able to make sure that we can watch them crash into each other. And
Put bumpers around them.
Right. That's the only way. That's the only way that I would support something like this.
No, but here's the serious issue here.
Yeah.
We're corrupting our political process. We've got, the building that I do my radio show from has it's 2 blocks from Capitol here, from the Capitol offices, from the Hart office building. And every day I see a member of Congress going in or out. They rent these rooms for a few hours a day because they can't do it from federal property, where they, on average, most members of the House and Senate have to spend between 3 and 6 hours a day dialing for dollars.
Right.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Good people are being driven from politics for it. This is, I know Republicans who hate this. I know Democrats who hate this.
Yeah.
This is not working.
Yeah.
And yet, in your libertarian world, this is exactly how it should be, right?
Well, the problem is that if big corporation, if libertarianism supports big corporations, then why don't big corporations support libertarianism? So take a look at the presidential.
Well, they do.
Take a look.
Charles Koch ran for president.
Just a moment. He did. Well, he did, and he lost, and he got his butt beat. So let's take a look at reality.
So every other libertarian.
But here, take a look at the presidential debates, Tom. I'm worried about the corporate influence as well. And if you look at the 2012 presidential debates, who was it sponsored by? Big corporations. Anheuser-Busch, Howard Buffett, the Kobler Fund, Southwest Airlines, big corporations.
So what's your alternative?
Well, my problem here is that these corporations are the ones who are deciding who are the ones who we get to hear from. The presidential debates are probably the only thing that the American people actually pay attention to in regards to politics. Most people don't pay attention to politics. So even if you put patches on their chest, they're not watching C-SPAN anyway. So we have a crisis of democracy. I do believe that we have a crisis of democracy, and we do have too much corporate influence. But if you look at libertarians, they're not supporting libertarians. They're supporting Republicans and Democrats. They're supporting those big party people.
Because those are the people who have the power.
But right,
you guys are on the. You guys are like us Greens. You stand on the outside throwing rocks.
But the thing is that libertarians want to give power. We want to take over the government and leave you alone, Tom.
Yeah, right.
That's why corporations don't support libertarianism, and that's the real problem. You have to understand, we are the voice of the people, the vox populi. The libertarians, the populist libertarians, we believe that corporations should have the right to spend what they want to spend, but that the people should have the right to the transparency to know where the money's coming from.
So,
absolutely.
So you want big government to be sure that every dollar that corporations spend on politics is publicly announced. How is big government going to control that?
If the only thing the government did was to record where donations came from, then it wouldn't be a big government. And that would be the only thing that I might support government doing, actually. Not water utilities, not welfare, not Social Security.
So then we get the second problem, which is a problem inherent in the libertarian perspective on capitalism.
Okay.
And that, have you ever played Monopoly?
Of course.
Okay. What's the goal of Monopoly?
The goal of Monopoly is to crowd out your opponents and buy as much as you can.
It's to end up with one person owning everything.
As much as you can, right?
Well, no. The game ends when one person owns everything.
Okay, and
it's in the instructions.
Right, it's a game.
Yeah, it's a game, but it's also a game that reflected, the reality of monopoly in the United States in the 1920s when Grace, what's her name, came up with the idea for the game, and she was a Georgist. I mean, she was following Henry George, his economic principles. I commend them to you. What do we do about monopoly? What do we do? You just gave a list of corporations. These are massive corporations. They have so much power that they could wipe out any individual congressman like a bug.
Well,
and any small business.
Well, here's the thing. We do have monopoly. We have monopolies in our political system, and we have some things that are natural monopolies that occur in the marketplace. So if you have to have different approaches to the different kinds of monopolies. Right now, we have a monopoly on the use of force that's taken by our government, which I think you support. We have a monopoly on our monetary system. That's the corporatist Federal Reserve. I think you should take a look at that and change your opinion on the Federal Reserve. I think we libertarians and liberals should work together to fight this corporate entity. And we also have monopolies in the marketplace, natural monopolies. So when you talk about monopolies, you have to break it down.
Natural monopolies are things like there's only one water pipe coming in.
For example,
house.
exactly.
That's not a marketplace monopoly. That's the commons.
Right, but you could have competition in places like that, and I would say that we need to encourage competition. But take a look at Microsoft, for example.
Well, how are you going to have three water companies competing
We
for the
called
water
Microsoft a monopoly, and we said that because they included Internet Explorer in with their PCs, that this was some sort of monopoly. But what we didn't understand, was that by breaking up Microsoft, we gave advantages to other companies that were unfair advantages in the marketplace. So taking a look at Microsoft, we didn't actually gain any benefit from breaking it up. We called it a monopoly, but
we never did that.
But it wasn't a monopoly.
They're still bundling their browser with their operating system.
They are, but it's not a requisite. You don't have to do it, and you can choose other browsers. But we didn't get any sort of benefit on the back end of it.
And they would, well, no, the benefit is that you can choose other browsers.
But why would
if Microsoft had their way, they'd say the Microsoft operating system only works with the Internet Explorer.
So if you could end a monopoly right now, if you could end any monopoly right now, which is the biggest monopoly that you'd end? I would end the monopoly on force. I would end the monopoly on force because that's the one.
Well, that's
the most dangerous monopoly.
That's government,
right? And I would break that monopoly.
There are areas like the increasing police power in the United States, increasing militarization around the world, where you and I agree on that.
President assassinating with people with drones unilaterally.
Certainly, but all that said, I'm frankly also that's a monopoly, and a monopoly on force, where every 2 years you and I can go to the ballot box and say we're going to change the guy running this thing. The corporations, when we end up with 2 or 3 companies who own our foods, who over 80% of our food supply, 4 corporations that own over 90% of our media, 4 corporations that own most of our major manufacturing in the United States, but depending on the sector, you look at individual sectors, but we now have these functional monopolies in every industry.
Listen, Tom, your concerns are valid.
Good for democracy.
You're right. Your concerns are absolutely valid, but you have to understand that when big business and big corporations get in bed together, they pass laws and regulations to screw the little guy, and there's no way for them to compete against what becomes these monopolies because they get
all the more reason why
subsidies.
Citizens United sucks.
Well, I disagree.
Citizens United says, these giant monopolies.
But if I had to fight a monopoly, I would fight the monopoly that forces me, not the one that I choose, because I choose what media I have. I choose what food I have. No one forces me to eat. No one forces me to eat, but they do force me to pay taxes.
Biology forces you to eat, Austin.
They don't, but I can choose what food source.
You only have 4 companies that you can choose your food.
That's not true. I can grow in my own backyard. I can grow in my own backyard.
Well, not a lot of people have backyards, and not a lot of people live in climates where you can grow things year-round.
But you have to give people freedom of choice, Tom. Freedom of choice in government as well. Absolutely.
Well, I'm all in favor of freedom of choice in government, and that's why we have elections every 2 years. We have freedom of choice in government. What we don't have is freedom of choice in the marketplace, because you guys are saying, hands off,
if we have
no
freedom
regulations.
of choice in government, then why can't third-party candidates get into these debates that are run by corporations, Tom?
Because we have first-past-the-post, winner-take-all elections.
That's right, and it's
so we should, of course, we should talk about things like instant runoff voting and proportional representation.
Absolutely.
But that's a whole other topic.
Right.
And so we'll save that for the next one.
Okay, thank you, Tom.
Peterson.
Good talk.
Thanks for dropping by. We'll be right back.